Hey guys, welcome back to Deep Shift Labs. In this video, I want to explain to you convolutions in deep neural networks. Without further ado, let's get started. So what will you learn in this video? In this video, you will learn what a convolution is, what it does, when and where can it be used, calculating output dimensions based on a given input shape, and some basic usage in Tensorflow. So, what exactly is a convolution? Well, a convolution is basically when you take an input, usually an image. It could also be a three-dimensional object, but that is beyond the scope of this video. And you convolve a kernel over it. So in this image, in these two images actually, the kernel is over here, the red square that's moving around, and here the blue square. Now the kernel also has a set of values. So in this case, this kernel has a value of 1, 0, negative 1, 1, 0, negative 1, on and on and on. And what we're doing is we're doing a simple multiplication and sum process. So when the kernel is over here in this first box, we're multiplying 1 by 7, 0 by 2, 3 by negative 1, 4 by 1, 5 by 0, you get the idea. All the way down, and then summing all those values and getting an answer of 6. We shift the kernel over, do the whole thing again, shift it over, do it again, go down, shift it over, do it again, and we just rotate all the way through, spiral all the way down until we have an output shape. Perfect. So, now that we understand how a kernel works and the basic mathematics behind it, let's understand how it's actually able to extract features and be of any use in artificial intelligence. Well, what we do in AI is we set each one of these values in the kernel a parameter, a variable, something that the AI could change. And then we feed it an input image. This could be 128 pixel by 128, 64 by 64, any size of image, right? And we basically use this convolving feature right here. And again, convolving is we put the kernel on the center or on the top left corner in this case, and then we multiply each of the corresponding boxes, sum them all together, and we replace those set of 9 boxes with a single box that is the sum of the products. And once we do that, the AI will be like, something didn't really quite go well. We probably messed up somewhere, and it's going to start tweaking each one of the values in the kernel. Now, once we have modified values of the kernel, it's going to do a forward pass again. And remember, if you don't understand what a forward pass, backpropagation, loss functions, anything like that is, go check out our previous video on basics of artificial intelligence. It's a great starter guide. And so once we do another forward pass, we're like, okay, we're getting better at this, but still not quite right. We again do a backwards pass, tweak all of these filters until we think that this is a good setting, do the forward pass again, and keep on doing this again until we're able to get accurate results. So, how does this actually differ from a dense layer? Well, here we're actually able to extract visual elements or spatial elements of an input data and characterize it more vividly. In dense layers, it's just a bunch of neurons that are all connecting together, running that same weighted sum plus the bias, add the activation function, all that same jazz that we've been doing for dense layers. However, it's quite difficult to visualize what the AI is doing, and dense layers, well, although they can be applied to practically every scenario, are not as good with visual applications. So as you can see here, we have an input image of a person's face that is going into these features, these convolutions, and each convolution's filter is picking up distinct features. It's picking up this bright spot near the nose, maybe the bottom part of his face, and as it goes through more layers, it's able to pick up bigger and bigger features. As you can see, we can almost make out like a ghastly face over here. And through this, we can pick up accurate features and not just random pixels, because recall, the dense layer picks up random features from the image. It could be a few pixels, a single pixel. It doesn't matter. It's picking up random features, and although it works, it's not as effective as a convolution. Now, remember how we were convolving it before? Now, does it make sense why we convolve it? It's to not only reduce the sample size, which we will discuss later, but it's also to extract these key features by generalizing the pixels that are right next to each other. In this case, we're generalizing these pixels, modifying them. For example, an edge convolution, which is a type of convolution, will pick up all the edges. So every time within the pixel, within the kernel, it sees an edge, it's going to brighten up those pixels and dim the pixels that are not part of the edge. And this way we can get nice highlighted edge features. And big shout out to medium.com, Miro user, and Google developers. They have great animations on convolutions. I would not have been able to explain convolutions without them, so thank you. And thank you to ResearchGate. They also provided this nice image, which is very useful when understanding what a convolution actually looks at. So, when and where can this be used? Now, I kind of alluded to this before, but convolutions can be used in very spatial applications. For example, an autonomous vehicle has a point cloud, a set of point that is generated by the LiDAR, and we want to find common features in them. Well, we could use a three-dimensional convolution, which uses the same concept as a two-dimensional one, just bumped up a little, to detect these features. We can also do intelligent data downsampling. And this is something I previously mentioned, but let's say you have a huge image, like a 1080p image, and you don't want to lose features, like you want to keep all the detail, but intelligently downscale it to also make it more efficient while computing. Well, we would use this technique because, recall, if we go back here, we are downsampling the images. We are, in this case, cutting the image size by some fraction. And we're also doing it intelligently because the kernel is a parameter that can be changed and tweaked and tuned to get a lower loss. And this way we can intelligently downsample. Now we can also use a reverse convolution called a transposed convolutional network to create images. And although this is way beyond the scope of this video, just keep in mind it's something you can do. And if this is one of your applications, you can look into that. So, how do we calculate the output dimension of a convolution? Because as I said, they're being downsampled by a specific fraction. So, how would we do this? Well, the most important feature to look at here is the stride. Now, I didn't really explain what a stride is, so let me do it right now. A stride is how many boxes the kernel skips, or how many boxes it moves, rather, when it's doing its convolution. So a stride of 1 would mean it only shifts by one box at a time, so the center is moving only one box, and then another box, and then another box. A stride of 2 would mean it actually skips one box and goes to every other box. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going to have empty boxes, because in this case, as you can see, we're still covering every box. We're still computing over every box. But the center of this convolution, center of the kernel, is skipping a box. And that's what's important here. Now you could have a stride of 2, 3, 4, 5, and to be even more specific, you can define the stride for each axis. So the horizontal stride and the vertical stride. Now we have a simple example here. You have a single image, hence why the batch size, depicted as the first element of the tuple here, is none. And then you have the height and the width of the image. It's a square, so 128 by 128. And then you have the depth of the image. In this case, it's a grayscale image, a monochrome image. That means it has a depth of 1. If you had an RGB image, it would be a depth of 3. If you had an RGBD, it would be a depth of 4. And then we have our simple convolution. And the number of features here, number of filters, is how many convolutions do you want it to go through? Because obviously putting it through one convolution isn't going to change it much. So as AI engineers, we decided to put it through several filters. And so in this case, we're putting it through 16 filters. It's going into a kernel that is 3 by 3. So here's a 2x2 kernel. We would have a 3x3 kernel and a stride of 2x2. So it's going to go every other box in the horizontal direction, every other box in the vertical direction. But notice here, since we're skipping every other box, it would be quite obvious to understand that the length and the width is going to be cut in half. So the output shape of our image would be 16 because that's the number of filters, so the batch size is increased, or even if you can call it the batch size. Then you have the length in which are each cut by half, because remember, we are skipping every other box, right? And then the depth still stays 1. We're not magically coloring the entire image, so at least I hope not. And once again, thank you to D2L.ai for providing this image. It was very helpful. Now some usage with Tensorflow. Now, Tensorflow has a very handy API for this. As I mentioned in the previous video, Keras, right? And it allows you to make convolutions with a single line of code. In this case, we have tf.keras.layers.conv2d, so convolution 2D for images. Here, as I said previously, we have a filter, and then we have a tuple, which is a kernel size of 3x3. Now, if you don't know what tuples or ints or any of this notation means, go check out our Intro to Python series. It's a great series to get you started with Python, which is the programming language of choice for any AI engineer. And it's a cutting edge technology, so if you are interested in learning Python, go check those out. And here, as you can see, we are defining a bunch of extra parameters. Now, padding is another very important parameter, but I won't discuss it in this video in too much detail. But basically what it is if you want the center of the convolution to start at the very top left box, so at this 0 right here, then as you can quite clearly imagine, some of the kernel is going to be facing outside. It's going to be outside the image. So padding is just adding a bunch of zeros or a bunch of ones to the outside of the image, just to make sure we don't get any computational errors simply because there is no data beyond the image. And here's how you can make a simple convolutional layer. You just have to keep in mind the data shape, because if you had too many convolutions that each have strides of 2 or 3 or 5, we're downsampling the image so much that when it comes out, it's probably a few pixels and it's useless. So just keep that in mind when you're computing these types of convolutions. And that was it for the basics of convolutions. Go check out our other videos. As I previously mentioned, they're a great starter's guide. If you like this video, like and subscribe. It really helps. And it tells us what type of content we should be making. If you have any other ideas for anything else you want to learn about AI, data science, Python, stick a comment below. We'll definitely take a look at it. If you have any programming related questions, also stick them in the comments below. Now, good luck with all your AI endeavors, and until next time, see ya.